What is going on, everyone? My name is the Crimson Carver. If you don't know who I am primarily a warframe content creator over on YouTube, and on Twitch, I am a variety streamer, right? Um, so starting off this year with Gyre Prime. Now, I want to wish everyone a happy new year, and I hope you have a wonderful year. Now, without further ado, let's get into this, right? So, in this video, we're going to be going over Gyre and pretty much everything you need to know about her, from her stats to her abilities, her augments, the difference between Gyre and Gyre Prime. At the very end, we're going to wrap it up with some gameplay and still part to show you mostly what she's capable of. She's capable of a lot more, given the fact that this is a beginner's guide, right? Without further ado, let's jump into it. I hope you guys learned something new and enjoy the show. Now, before we jump into the video, I would like to point out that Gyre is only obtainable once you have completed the new war quest as well as the Angels of Zariman quest, right? With that out of the way, let's jump into the video and figure out how to get this wonderful frame, right? So, you've just done the new war and you've completed the Angels of Zariman. Congratulations! You're now able to do bounty missions and other such things in the Zariman 10-0. Awesome. Now, one such frame that you'll pick up from the Zariman 10-0 is this lovely lady, Gyre, right? Now, you can buy Gyre from the market for about 325 plat, or you can go and run the bounties in Zariman, right? And those bounties will award you with her main blueprint as well as her other blueprints, right? Which is like her new objects, her systems, and chassis, right? Now, once you've built Gyre, she will come with 270 health, 550 shield, 108 armor, and 190 energy with a base sprint speed of 1. Okay, so you've got Gyre, right? You've gone ahead and built her and you leveled her up, and you are seriously enjoying her. And lo and behold, Gyre Prime has come out. Wow, that makes things easy, doesn't it? So you probably want to know what the difference between Gyre and Gyre Prime is. Well, there's a few subtle differences between Gyre Prime and not just aesthetically speaking, of course, right? So Gyre Prime has increased health and shields, as well as higher sprint speed than Gyre, right? So if those stats do in fact matter to you, go ahead and get her. Okay, so you've built Gyre and you're ready to go. You know the basics about her. Awesome. But how do her abilities work? Well, let me explain. Her passive. Gyre's abilities have a 10% chance to deal critical damage for each electric status that's affecting the enemy. What does this mean? Gyre's abilities can crit. The ones that can do damage, they crit, right? But you must have an electric proc on a target to have an increased chance at getting a critical hit, right? More electric procs means more critical hits. More critical hits means more damage. So the general gist is bring a weapon that is able to spread electricity like the plague, essentially. Alrighty, on to the next ability. Arc Sphere. To summarize this ability, instead of reading that entire flood of text, because no thank you, essentially what you do, right, is you throw out a ball. That ball then creates a sphere of electricity around the orb, right? And any enemy that walks into it will immediately suffer a electric status effect, right? Now, the max expandable range of this orb doesn't happen upon cast. It hits the ground, then expands, right? Now, it costs 25 energy to cast. It has a duration of 10 seconds, right? And its max expandable range, as far as I know, it doesn't really have a max expandable range, but it starts at a 4 to 7 meter radius. So the initial cast is 4 meters, then it expands to 7 meters, right? And upon hitting the ground and upon making contact with the ground, it will cause 2,000 electric damage to any enemy nearby. But any enemy that walks inside of it will take 250 electric damage per second, right? Now, if you want to reduce the cost of this ability, it's entirely up to you. I don't recommend it, but it's entirely up to you. Chuck on Streamline, right? Streamline is going to reduce the cost of the ability, right? Does the exact same thing across the board. Now, say you want this to be bigger, right? You want that expandable range to be as big as possible. That's okay. Got you covered. I'd chuck on, say, Auger Reach. Now, before we go into anything else, these Auger mods are fantastic. Why? Because not only do they have a set bonus, they're also able to cover pretty well much all of your ability requirements starting out in the game, right? So Auger Reach covers your range, right? Auger Secrets is going to cover your strength, right? And then Auger Message is going to cover your duration. But Carver, where do I get these from? Well, where you can get them from is Earth. You go to Earth and look for a node called Cetus, right? Go talk to Konzu. He's going to have a bounty, right? I think it's like a 4 or a 5 stage bounty. You pick that one up. You go in on public to make it easy. It's entirely up to you. You don't have to, right? So, yeah, you go in. You pick up the bounty that has the Auger mods as a reward, right? And basically, you run that till you get all the Auger mods. And that should pretty much cover any ability requirement that you might have starting out. Now, keep in mind, these are placeholder mods, right? You can use these until you have better ones. And if you still want to keep using them, be my guest. Now, as I said before, range is going to increase the expandable range, right? Now, if you want these spheres to last longer, you chuck on a mod like Auger Message, increasing your ability duration, right? As I said, it's going to increase the duration of your ability, making it last longer. One thing I neglected to point out was that you can have 3 spheres active at one time, right? Now, strength is what's going to increase the damage of your arc sphere, right? As you can see, our damage went up. It was 2,000 before, it is now 2,480. It was 250 damage per second, now it's 310. See where I'm going with this? Now, moving on to the next ability, Coil Horizon, right? So essentially, how this thing works is, you throw out a sphere, right? And then after a few seconds, it's going to implode, right? So it's going to basically go boom, then it's going to create energy that is going to draw enemies in, affecting them with electricity procs, right? Now, it does have a radius, an explosion radius, which basically means, okay, it explodes for this much, pulling all enemies in that it's hit with its explosion, right? So, that being 12 meters. Now, like Arc Sphere, this does purely electric damage, right? It has a drain of 50 energy. Once again, much like the first ability, if you are trying to reduce the cost of your abilities, slap on Streamline. Cannot recommend it enough. Now, I should have left that on there. Now, if you want to increase the amount of damage it does per second and its explosion damage, you're going to want to put on Strength, right? Boom, August Secrets. Now, that Strength is going to increase the damage per second and the explosion damage. But if you want to pull more enemies in, what's going to happen is you're going to need to increase your range, right? Your range is what allows you to pull in more enemies from further away. Alrighty, on to the third ability, Cathode Grace. Right, this is gonna be your energy sustain plus damage amplification, right? So, what it does is you gain increased crit chance and energy regeneration, right? And each time you get a kill, it's going to extend the duration. So, each kill you get extends it by 3 seconds. It has a base duration of 8 seconds, so keep that in mind. One other thing to note is that this ability has a cooldown, right? So if you don't get kills within that original 8 seconds, what's going to happen is you're going to have to wait an additional 60 seconds to be able to recast the ability. Now, this doesn't exactly do any damage. It is more so a buff, right? Strength is going to increase the crit chance and the and the energy rate that you get, right? So, for example, as you can see, we just gained increased crit chance and increased energy rate, right? So, strength is going to increase the energy regeneration rate and the crit chance, right? That's fine though. That drain is a tad bit hefty. If you want to reduce the cost of the ability, once again, like the other two abilities, slap on some Streamline, right? Streamline's going to reduce that cost and you're pretty much golden, right? Now, duration mods, obviously they're going to increase the duration of the ability, as you can probably see, right? Now, range doesn't do anything for this, and the cooldown cannot be effective no matter what you try, right? So bear that in mind. Now, the final ability, called Rotor Swell. Essentially, what Gyre does is, this ability creates a ring around her that consistently deals electricity damage to everything that it comes into contact with, right? And when you get a critical hit with the ability, what's going to happen is you're going to notice that there's going to be a lightning strike that just kind of zaps enemies, right? Which is really cool. Now, if you want to increase the damage of this ability, Strength. Can't recommend it enough. Strength is going to be your best friend with Gyre, in my honest to God opinion, right? Efficiency is going to reduce the cost of the ability. Duration is obviously going to increase how long the ability lasts for. Whereas range, right? Range is going to increase the radius of that ring, which basically means, hey, I can hit more things, right? Now, it does about 250 electric damage per tick, right? So you'll zap someone, it does 250 electric damage, right? And it has a 10 meter range for discharge, right? So anything within 10 meters of an enemy that has been struck by discharge will, I believe, also be electrified. Now, the discharge damage is 500 electric damage, so yeah, bear that in mind, right? If you want to increase this damage, add strength. If you want to increase how many targets you can hit, increase range. If you want the ability to last longer, add duration, right? And that pretty much covers it for the abilities. So, now that you have a basic understanding of how Gyre's passive works and how it all plays together with her abilities, right? And you probably have, a build together, but you want to add some extra flair to that build. Well, that's where augments come in, right? Now, Gyre has 4 augments. I believe we're going to cover, yes, we're going to be covering Conductive Sphere first, good lord. So, essentially the way that this works is, any projectile that passes through an arc sphere, whenever you have this augment equipped, what happens is they will immediately gain a guaranteed electricity status proc, right? As well as 75% extra electric damage. Okay, and that applies for, I believe, every projectile that passes through it, right? Now, that extra damage can be modified with strength, right? Yes, as you can see, we can modify that extra damage with strength, right? More strength means more damage. Now, coil recharge, right? The way that this works is it affects the second ability. You know, the one where you kind of just throw it out and then recast it to pull enemies in. Well, the way that this works, right, is that when you throw it out and recast it, not only does it pull enemies in, it will also explode, dealing a lot more damage, right? Now the text reads, gyratory sphere can be recalled. Enemies in the radius suffer 500 electric damage and chain other enemies. Enemies pulled into the detonation suffer additional discharges, which is really cool, right? So you've got 5 additional discharge changes. This is a really complex augment, by the way. It has a duration, obviously, of 20 seconds, right? The discharge range is 5 meters. You can extend that with range mods, obviously, as I'm about to show you, right? So range, actually, no, you can't. Wow. Wow, thank you, Warframe. Okay, let's take a better look, shall we? So the only thing that we can increase on this augment, right, is the ability duration and the discharge damage, right? So the way that it works is you recast the ability, it explodes and does a discharge in a 5-meter range, right? And discharge per meter is 15 meters. Okay, cool. Now, on to the next one, which is cathode current, right? So, essentially how cathode current works is that whenever you kill an enemy while cathode grace is active, you release an additional discharge from the rotoswell, 200% damage. Okay. By the same. Okay, so essentially how this works is whenever you kill anything while cathode current is active, they will suffer an additional discharge at 200% of its damage, right? And unfortunately, you cannot modify the amount of extra damage it does. It's fixed at that level, so keep that in mind. Now, the last one we're going to be going for is called reverse rotoswell, right? So, essentially, 35% of the damage that you take gets reflected as electric damage, right? And you can increase the redirection as well as the status chance by improving strength mods, right? So more strength basically means, hey, I can reduce damage a lot more. Cool. It's a nice form of damage reduction, in all honesty. But yeah, that about covers it for all the augments.
Orokin Neural Sentry is attempting to purge you from this place. Stand by for life support. All manner of Orokin technology may work here due to the Circulus's proximity. If you have a necromech, you may use it. Sentient fighters won't be far behind. They know you're here. Prepare for sentient fighters. risked the unfathomable. I fear we are seeing the consequences of that risk now. Destroy these void-stained enemies.
And so we learn the importance
And once
of
again,
clarity,
have a happy new year.
purpose.
And I hope this year treats you well.